Welcome back to part 2 of Chase Arevalo coaching Wake Forest in Texas. These are 214 UT. Go, come on. Go, come on. That's a good return miss though, a little bit long. That's the best miss you can make. And another ad.
This might sound strange, but I wasn't always.
Wow, that's a really good shot. Way to keep ground on the baseline there.
Let's go! Let's go! There we go!
He can totally make that, but on the run, especially at this point in the match, top spin cross court ideally. There wasn't really a purpose behind that slice forehand. You can hit it, but it was kind of unnecessary, in my opinion. Look at that. So he goes backhand line, recovering. Look how he uses the open stance, backhand, to rip cross. Use the open stance more. Open stance, open stance, open stance. Critical thing right there. Most people use the close stance way too much on their backhand especially. It's a great example of somebody using it at the highest level. Nice, good open stance transition there again. Timo did that same thing he did in the first set. Very good. So there, he didn't push off the left foot enough. So Stefan did not push off his left leg enough there. So he split. Everything's looking good right here. He's got to push off the left leg, land forward into the court. But see, there was no push off the left there. So you can see a big difference versus what he did there versus some of the more successful returns he's had. So that's credit to the leg drive. It's a good decision there. It was a good decision to approach down the line there also. He just didn't execute the down the line shot that well. So look, his decision here, he can either go cross court or down the line. What are the odds that he would hit a winner if he goes cross court? Probably not that high based on the fact that his opponent, Timo, is still in the forehand corner. So the decision is pretty clear to go down the line. Now, I believe his error here is he needs to move through the ball a little faster, get more momentum through the ball. But all things considered, he hit a pretty solid ball down the line. He just didn't do that much damage with it. And he committed very hard to the net. So it was a great opportunity for Timo to lob him, which he did. So that's a great shot on his part there. But yeah, let's keep going. Got to have a lob in your tool bag. You got to have a lob in your tool bag. Okay, so he's going for the drop. What was that? So one thing for Timo that he could improve on is when he steps into the shot, when he does his forehand open stance approaches, you can totally do that and put your foot how he positions it with his toes facing forward. However, his knee would probably load in a healthier way long term if he were to pivot his toe to the right more. It's going to point it a little bit more forward, especially when you're kind of running forward and you're flowing it together. But ideally, you'll load your knee more effectively if you point the right toe to the right more. So very small detail there, but at that level, you got to be looking especially hard at these little details, right? Because that can make or break it for you long term. So let's keep going here. If you're Stefan, you got to realize Timo is literally just hitting it to your backhand, bro. So when you're hitting your backhands, it's like he's almost being like a pusher to your backhand in a sense, but like high level pusher, because he's obviously not like a pusher, but he's just making the balls to your backhand. So what you got to do is be extra patient on your backhand. Don't rush out of it, right? That's what like pushers want you to do. They want you to get impatient. So if they're playing that game, you got to outpatient them with the backhand until you can leverage your forehand, utilize your strengths, right? So Timo's doing a good job of making Stefan uncomfortable and making him pull the trigger from his backhand. When in reality, Stefan doesn't need to pull the trigger on his backhand. Very solid. think was the error here? He had a great serve. What was the error here? Take a look at it. Amazing serve. Couldn't execute a better serve. And then he misses that ball. It's very simple. His adjustment steps. Let's look at when his adjustment steps stopped. So he served. He should already be focused on getting at least a step behind the baseline so he's not caught right on top there. Now look, he's positioned far back enough now. He's on top of the baseline. He doesn't need to go farther back. But when he's finding his forehand, he needs to move around like he's doing more inside out footwork, because when you move around the forehand from this angle especially, with the intention of hitting an inside out forehand, there's a little secret, which is you can still execute the cross court forehand. In this scenario, since he's in the middle, it would either be kind of like a down the line or / inside out, or it'd be like a cross court forehand, right? If you do the work to get around it enough to hit an inside out forehand, you can still change your decision last second and go cross court from that. However, if you position yourself like he did here, where you can basically see it, like there's no way this guy's going to go down the line with the shot, just based on his body's positioned. When you see that, he's gonna have a much more difficult time executing down the line / inside out shot here. He could still technically hit it, but the angle wouldn't be as good. He wouldn't have as much leverage to go more away from his opponent. So the lesson there is, when you're running around the forehand, finding your forehand, don't do the bare minimum. Take the extra adjustment steps so that you have all the options that you want to go to, even if you know, wait, I probably just want to hit this shot. Because he wasted time just standing there instead of taking like literally it would have been like 2 more steps, 3 more steps max, and he would have been able to have both options, right? So the lesson there is just prepare and treat it like you're going to go inside out, even if you want to go back to the same corner. So look, if we're being picky there and seeing what he could have done better there, Timo, let's look. He hits a good ball, puts Stefan on his back foot. Then Stefan hits a short ball. At a 14 UTR level, that is probably the shortest ball you're going to get the entire rally. That ball was like 4 feet, 3 feet inside the service line, the service box. So by standing this far back behind the baseline, Timo is basically saying, I just want to chill back here behind the baseline. What he should do, in my opinion, is recognize the ball's that short, do the work to get his body at least on top of the baseline. He really should be at that level with his body. He could totally be almost in the middle of no man's land, making contact there. It would take a lot more footwork. It would be a lot of hard work, but like that's possible. I believe that he could have done that. So let's see. Yeah, and look, I mean, he missed the shot. He could have made that totally from that position, but he could have had a better likelihood to be aggressive if he positioned himself a little bit more forward earlier. Good old stay back in there.
Come on! Come on! Let's go! Fight, man! Let's go, now, come on! Come on, man! Come on!
Too many errors from Stefan's backhand. If you're him, after 1 or 2 of these errors, like the next few rallies, you got to just stay more disciplined, just keeping it cross, right? If you're spraying a few backhands, like 2-3 backhands, like at this stage in the match, already down a set, like you got to find some rhythm and you got to find that consistency. So recognize that after like 1 or 2 errors, You don't want to wait until it's like, I just lost a game or two based on this one error, and now I want to adjust, right? It might be a little too late. So let's see if he makes any adjustments. Again, the slice serve out wide, super effective, even at the 14 UTR level. Nice open stance backhands. That's really good. That's a really good change of direction right there. It's really solid. Great serve, even better return, putting him on the back foot. He should go cross here most likely. Look, he missed it because he was a little bit off balance, but that's the right shot he should have gone to. Based on the fact that he was positioned very defensively far back, then you have a choice. I'm going cross court. Should I go more deep or should I go more angle? Excuse me. Should I go more deep or should I go more angle? And based on the fact that he's defensively positioned farther back on the run, you want to aim more deep. Now, let's say he got there really early and he was in position super early. He could be aggressive. Maybe aim more angle, right? But he was more centered in the court. Angle is going to be a lot more difficult to hit as well. So those are a few things to think about. Open stance. Oh. Wow, that's a tough shot. One thing on the swing volley there, you want to make sure you don't slow your feet down when you're here. You don't want to make sure like you're still taking steps. So like for him here, he was still taking adjustment steps. However, it did look like he was slowing down the feet a little bit more. He has great timing. He made it work. But for most players, when you see that ball floating in the air, make sure you're still taking a lot of steps, adjustment steps, because the ball can change in the air, right? And you might not judge it perfectly. So give yourself the opportunity to make those kind of last few millisecond adjustments. So just keep taking steps, more steps. He's really good at timing the ball. So he was able to do it with taking not as many steps. But if he took one step in the wrong direction, he would have been screwed, right? So make sure that if you're not maybe the most experienced with the steps you're taking, then take more of them so you have more chances at success. So again, drop shot down the line error. I love the drop shot. I'm one of the biggest proponents of the drop shot. You can go down the line. You totally can. But it's easier to execute cross court. So if you're in a high pressure situation, go cross court with the drop shot. Make sure it makes sense strategically, but if in doubt, go cross court with the drop shot. You also have more distance to cover, which makes the drop shot easier to execute. Wow. Slice serve out wide to finish the match. That's a good way to send it off. So, yeah. If you guys got any value out of that, if you liked the video, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.